The lights inside the Manhattan Policy Forum were cold and sharp, bouncing off the polished glass table at the center of the stage. Journalists, politicians, analysts, and influencers filled the audience rows, whispering and checking their phones. As they waited for the panel to begin, cameras were already rolling, broadcasting the event live across major news networks and streaming platforms around the world. At one end of the stage sat Karoline Leavitt, her presence already commanding attention. Young, confident, and sharp-tongued, Karoline had built her reputation on loud, unapologetic nationalism. She was famous for her fiery interviews on American news channels, her viral social media takedowns, and her relentless defense of America first. Her fans saw her as a truth-teller. Her critics called her dangerous. She wore a crimson blazer, a calculated choice, and smiled like she already knew she was about to own the stage. Across from her, seated with careful posture, was Carney. Calm, focused, dressed in a simple navy suit with a discreet silver tie. The former governor of both the Bank of Canada and the Bank of England, Carney had the quiet aura of someone used to real power boardrooms. Global summits, rooms where decisions shaped millions of lives. If Karoline was a flame, Carney was ice. The moderator welcomed everyone, setting the tone for what was expected to be a balanced discussion on North American trade policy, climate cooperation, and public health care reform. But few in the audience were prepared for the confrontation that was about to unfold. At first, things moved slowly. Standard talking points, policy numbers, diplomatic language. Carney spoke briefly about international trade stability, warning of long-term risks if national interests were pushed too far ahead of global needs. Karoline nodded as if listening, then subtly rolled her eyes. As the discussion turned to climate goals and cross-border cooperation, the shift began. Karoline leaned forward, the microphone catching her perfectly. With all due respect, she began, flashing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. We're spending too much time pretending Canada is leading anything. The room tensed. Karoline continued, her voice growing sharper. Their economy is tied together with duct tape. Their healthcare system. It's basically a glorified waiting room. You break your arm in Alberta, you'll die of old age before you see a doctor. And don't even get me started on their climate policies. They're not saving the planet. They're performing for it. There were gasps, a few awkward laughs. Carney didn't move. Karoline smiled again, clearly enjoying the discomfort. Canada is America's polite attic, she said, pausing for effect. Cold, quiet, and full of stuff nobody wants but is too sentimental to throw away. The moderator glanced toward Carney, who sat still. His fingers were folded neatly. He looked not angry, but alert, like a surgeon preparing for the first cut. Karoline leaned back in her chair, satisfied. The audience was on edge. They had come for policy. This was turning into something else entirely. The silence was heavy. Then Carney spoke. His voice was calm, clear, unrushed. It's interesting, said Kay, that someone so unfamiliar with global economics can speak so confidently about a country whose institutions repeatedly outrank the United States in stability, trust, and international cooperation. Few people in the audience froze mid-sip of their drinks. Carney turned his full gaze toward Karoline. While you mock universal health care, he said, Canadians live longer. While you sneer at environmental responsibility, Canada leads the world in green innovation per capita. And while you wave flags, we build consensus. There were no laughs now. Karoline's smile faltered for a split second. The moderator tried to step in, sensing the heat rising. But Carney raised a hand, slightly, still calm, still precise. Let's talk economics, he continued. Canada has maintained a AAA credit rating through every global crisis of the past 20 years. When American banks collapsed in 2008 due to reckless greed, it was Canadian banks that became the model of restraint. But yes, please, he said, voice dipping in cool sarcasm. Tell me more about how weak we are. The air in the room changed, not like applause, but like a collective breath being held. Karoline blinked, clearly rattled. Her media training kicked in. She laughed. Well, she said, forcing lightness into her voice, I guess someone memorized their country's Wikipedia page. Carney didn't even blink. I don't memorize facts, he said. I lead with them. It hit like a precision strike. There was no dramatic music. No shouting. Just something real. Something sharp enough to cut straight through the noise. The phones in the room were already recording. Viewers at home had begun to clip the exchange. The hashtag Canadian SMACKDOWN hadn't even been born yet, but it was coming. And in that moment on live television in front of an international audience, Karoline Leavitt, the bold and brash voice of modern nationalism, found herself sitting across from a man who didn't raise his voice to fight. He didn't need to. He had facts, and the world was listening. The clip of the confrontation exploded online before the panel even ended. By the time the moderator wrapped up the final question, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube were already flooded with short videos of the moment Mark Carney dismantled Karoline Leavitt. People weren't just watching, they were stunned. There was no shouting, no chaos, no insults. It's just quiet, controlled humiliation delivered with surgical precision. The hashtag Canadian SMACKDOWN trended across several countries. Teenagers who didn't care about politics were quoting Carney's line, I don't memorize facts, I lead with them. On Instagram, memes spread of him calmly sipping water after the panel, its expression unreadable, his suit untouched by sweat. One post read, polite, but lethal. Karoline had left the stage quickly, smiling for the cameras, waving stiffly. But something had shifted behind her eyes. Those close to her saw it. The way she clenched her jaw, the way she gripped her phone tighter than usual. She had faced pushback before, even outrage, but never silence. Never this kind of silence. Her team gathered backstage. They were in damage control mode within minutes. One aide suggested tweeting that it had all been a joke. Another recommended releasing a short video calling out Carney as a globalist banker hiding behind stats. But none of it sounded strong enough. Every move felt like it might make things worse. Just wait, her strategist said. Wait until the cycle turns. Don't feed it. Karoline hated waiting. She thrived on conflict, on the back and forth of media war. But for once, she said nothing. Not a single tweet, not a single interview, no appearances. She disappeared into her own silence. Meanwhile, Carney did the opposite. He released a 1,200-word op-ed the next morning titled Leadership in an Age of Noise. It wasn't fiery, it wasn't personal. It was thoughtful, deliberate, and quietly devastating. He wrote, we now live in a time where provocation is mistaken for power, where insult replaces insight. If we reward performance over principle, we will suffer in the long term. Democracies demand more than loud voices. They demand informed ones. The article was picked up by major publications, The Guardian, The New York Times, even The Wall Street Journal. Analysts praised its tone. Educators shared it with students. Diplomats quoted it in speeches. But behind the headlines, powerful people were watching, and not all of them were pleased. Karoline wasn't just a commentator. She was a symbol, a tool, carefully constructed by a network of political donors, lobbyists, and think tanks who had invested in her rise. Her sudden silence and public humiliation wasn't just her problem. It was theirs. In Washington, a billionaire tech mogul named Jonas Mercer, who had quietly bankrolled Karoline's career for years, made a call to his chief strategist. He humiliated her, Mercer said, pacing inside a private office. On international television, I cannot stand. The strategist hesitated. It'll blow over, no. Mercer snapped. We don't let our assets bleed. If we lose the narrative, we lose the momentum. Plans began to move, quietly, rapidly. Smear campaigns were drafted. A research team was hired to dig into Carney's past. Analysts were told to find something, anything that could question his integrity. An old comment, a hidden investment, an off-record quote. And if nothing real existed, then something close enough would do. Karoline, meanwhile, stayed hidden. In a private estate in upstate New York, away from cameras, she met with two of her closest advisors. Her expression was tired but not broken. She replayed the clip of Carney again and again, watching his calm face, his controlled words. Didn't understand how he did it, how he made her feel so small without ever raising his voice. "Do you think I lost?" she asked finally. One advisor paused. "You didn't just lose," he said. "You got exposed." She didn't speak for a long time. Then she whispered, "He made me look like a joke, a loud one." Back online, the numbers kept growing. Millions of views, international commentary. People were talking less about the content of the debate and more about what it represented. It wasn't just a clash between two panelists. It was a fight between two worldviews, noise versus reason, ego versus experience, showmanship versus statesmanship. And for once, the crowd had sided with the quiet one. But Carney, too, understood the moment wasn't over. His phone buzzed constantly. Messages from former colleagues, political allies, and even ambassadors. Praise, warnings. Some congratulations came with subtle cautions. "You just stepped into the storm," one text. Meghan sat in the back of the black SUV as it pulled away from the studio. She stared out the tinted window at the crowd of reporters, their camera flashes lighting up the night like fireworks. Her phone kept buzzing on the seat beside her. Picked it up once, saw dozens of missed calls and messages from her team, her husband, even journalists she knew personally. She dropped it back onto the seat without answering. Her head throbbed. The words from the interview repeated in her mind, echoing like gunshots. "Let's talk about who really owns this conversation." She felt cold all over, despite the car's heat. Her security detail sat in the front seat, silent and professional. But she could hear their radios crackling. "Crowd is following. Media tailing the car. Requesting alternate route." The driver's voice was low and calm. "Ma'am, we're diverting. It's too many reporters on the main road." "Do whatever you want," Meghan mumbled, not looking at him. She shut her eyes and remembered Joy Behor's face, the smug smile faltering, the fear she'd seen in her eyes. That single moment felt like a victory. But the rest was a blur of anger, humiliation, and chaos. The car turned sharply. Meghan felt it in her stomach. She pressed her hand against the door to steady herself. Her advisor, Lauren, was waiting at the safe house. A rented townhouse in a quiet LA neighborhood. When the car stopped, Lauren rushed out, phone pressed to her ear, barking orders. "Get her inside now, no press." Meghan stepped out, cameras flashing even here, though not as many. She kept her head down as security blocked the lenses. She walked quickly up the steps and through the door. Inside, it was quiet. Too quiet. Lauren ended her call. She looked at Meghan, eyes wide, voice shaking. "What the hell happened?" Meghan didn't answer. She walked past her, heading for the kitchen. She poured herself a glass of water with trembling hands. Lauren slammed her phone on the counter. "You went off script. You don't understand. You accused two governments of conspiring to silence you. That's not just a bad look. A goddamn international crisis." Meghan turned around slowly, glass in hand. Her eyes were red. Good Lauren froze. "What?" "Good," Meghan repeated. Her voice was low, cold. "Let them be uncomfortable. Let them explain themselves." Lauren threw her hands up. "You think the U.S. government is going to back you after you called them out on live TV? Do you think the UK is just going to ignore it? They'll bury you. You'll be discredited everywhere. No charity will touch you. The press will eat you alive. Meghan didn't flinch. They already do. Lauren stared at her, at a loss. The TV was on in the living room. The volume was low, but Meghan could hear her own voice on the screen, replayed again and again. You want transparency? Let's talk about who really owns this conversation. CNN was running a breaking news segment. The anchor looked grave. The Duchess's explosive accusations have sparked diplomatic tensions between London and Dachix. If you're using like a scanner app and it's like you're gonna die, like scanner at like, look at this. Like, look at this. And we look at this. When we all know I've been exploring with Q size and we sklees. As we splo at we sick with size as explosive accusations as we sit with SIDS. I don't take with cis sides. We sick clad on we eps. Washington, the White House has not yet commented. Lauren sighed heavily. She picked up her phone again. I have to do damage control. Don't, Meghan said quietly. Lauren stopped. Don't spin it. Don't apologize for me. Don't lie for me. I meant every word. Lauren swallowed hard. Then God help you. Meghan looked away, her eyes fixed on the TV. Outside, the street was filling with more press fans. Sirens wailed in the distance as police tried to control traffic. Meanwhile, in Washington, D.C., the president's chief of staff sat in the West Wing watching the same clip. He turned to an aide. Get the British ambassador on the phone. Now, in London, the foreign secretary paced in his office, yelling into his mobile. This is unacceptable. She's accusing us of censorship on American television. We need to respond immediately. Call the embassy. News tickers around the world ran her words on loop. Social media burned with arguments. Some praised her for bravery. Others called her unhinged. But the biggest question spreading everywhere was simple. What did she mean? What secrets are being hidden? And somewhere, in a quiet newsroom in Europe, an investigative reporter stared at the leaked diplomatic cables he'd gotten weeks ago. Meghan's meltdown had just blown the story wide open. He opened a new document on his computer. He began to type, "Exclusive governments conspired to silence Meghan Markle and control royal coverage." He smiled grimly. This time, no one could stop the truth from coming out. Meghan didn't sleep that night. She sat on the couch in the dark living room, lit only by the glow of her phone screen. News alerts kept popping up every few minutes. Markle's shock claims rock diplomatic relations, White House silent on royal accusations. UK demands clarification from US over TV meltdown outside. Reporters camped on the street. Camera lights flashed against the curtains. C could hear them shouting questions every time someone walked by. Inside, the house was quiet, too quiet. Lauren had given up arguing hours ago and gone to bed in the guest room. But Meghan could still hear her muffled voice through the walls, talking on the phone to publicists and lawyers. Meghan scrolled through her social media. The comments were brutal. Spoiled brat meltdown. She's telling the truth, wake up. Who does she think she is? She's the only one brave enough to say it. There was no going back. She set the phone down and rubbed her eyes. Her head pounded. Suddenly, her phone vibrated. Unknown number, she let it go to voicemail. A minute later, a text popped up. We need to talk. You don't know the whole story. She frowned. Another message followed, this time with a name she recognized. Tom Hayes. BBC Investigations. Urgent. She hesitated. She remembered Tom from London, a serious reporter with a reputation for exposing corruption. He'd once tried to get her side of a royal story, but her team had shut him down. She stared at the message, then she called. Tom picked up instantly. Meghan, thank God. Listen, I know what you said on The View wasn't planned, but you're right, and I have proof. She didn't speak, just listened to him breathe heavily on the other end. I have the cables, he said quietly. The ones that prove UK government pressure on US networks to kill stories about you. Threats to revoke visas. Diplomatic retaliation. It's real. I've been sitting on them for weeks. No one would publish. They're terrified. Megan's heart pounded. She felt dizzy. Why tell me? She whispered. Because now it's out there, Tom said. Your meltdown forced it. I'm running the story, but I want your side. Your real side. Before it all goes nuclear, she closed her eyes. Images of Joy Bay her smirk. The audience's laughter. The fury that had spilled out of her, unstoppable. Can you prove it's real? She asked. I can. I'm sending you one of the redacted cables right now. Her phone buzzed. An email arrived. She opened it and scanned the document. Official letterhead. Government stamps. Lines blacked out, but clear enough. Coordinate with U.S. media partners to discourage further coverage of the Duchess's allegations. Potential visa delays for non-compliant outlets. Maintain plausible deniability. Her breath caught. It was worse than she'd thought. Megan, Tom's voice was low and urgent. This isn't about you anymore. This is about government interference in the free press. This is a political scandal that could destroy relationships between two of the closest allies in the world. Your meltdown didn't cause it. It revealed it. She swallowed hard. Tom continued. You have a choice. Talk to me on the record. Help me finish this story. Or stay quiet and let them spin you as the crazy, ungrateful Duchess who lost her. Mind on TV. Her hands shook. She rubbed her forehead. I need time, she whispered. You don't have time, Tom snapped. They're already mobilizing. White House is working on a statement. UK Foreign Office is threatening legal action. By morning, they'll bury you in hit pieces. Megan didn't speak. Decide, Tom said, his voice softer now. But know this, you're not alone. There are people who still care about the truth. He hung up. Megan sat frozen. The TV droned in the background with muted chatter. A panel show debated her sanity. A scrolling ticker at the bottom read, Breaking, White House press secretary to address Markle's interview fallout tomorrow. She turned it off. Outside, the cameras flashed. She pulled the curtains tighter. Her mind raced. She thought of her son sleeping in another house, protected by security. She thought of Harry, thousands of miles away on charity business, calling her again and again without answer. She thought of the monarchy, the press, the machine that had chewed her up and spit her out. And for the first time in hours, she let herself cry. Not because she was beaten, but because she finally understood how big this really was. When she wiped her eyes, her expression was hard. She picked up her phone and opened Tom's email again. She read the cable carefully, line by line. Then she whispered to herself in the dark. They want a war? Fine. Let's give them one. By morning, the world was on fire. Every major news network ran the footage of Meghan's confrontation on The View. Analysts dissected every word. Politicians weighed in. Even late-night comedians tried to make jokes about it, but they fell flat. When new details emerged, because overnight, it's Tom Hayes and his team at BBC. Investigations released the first part of their report. It wasn't just the redacted cable Meghan had seen. It was dozens. They published evidence of private messages between UK government officials and American network executives. Notes about friendly requests to delay or soften stories about Meghan and Harry. Threats to withhold special access. Even discussions about slowing visa processing for certain journalists if they didn't play along. CNN International picked up the story immediately. Al Jazeera ran it in every hourly update. The Guardian plastered it across its front page. Governments accused of press freedom breach in royal coverage scandal at the White House. The press secretary held a tense briefing. Reporters demanded answers. Did the U.S. government coordinate with the UK to suppress stories about Meghan Markle? Will there be an investigation? Is this a threat to press freedom? The press secretary avoided direct answers. She repeated that the U.S. valued a free press, that there were ongoing conversations with allies, and that they wouldn't comment on leaked documents. But it was too late. The scandal had a life of its own. In London, the foreign secretary gave an angry press conference. He called the leaks deeply misleading and potentially criminal, accusing journalists of endangering diplomatic relations. But he refused to say the cables were fake. Back in L.A., Megan watched it all unfold on TV, sitting at the same kitchen counter where she'd fought with Lauren. Lauren was still there. She hadn't slept much either. She scrolled through her phone, reading the worst headlines aloud. Markle's meltdown triggers diplomatic crisis. Royal rebel or reckless liar? The Duchess, who accused two nations of censorship, she slammed the phone down. Congratulations. You're officially the most hated woman in 2 countries. Meghan didn't even blink. Good. At least they're talking about the real problem. Lauren rubbed her eyes. You think people care? They'll forget in 2 days. They'll pick a new scandal. Meghan shook her head slowly. Not this time. Not if we keep the pressure on. Lauren stared at her. How? Meghan picked up her own phone. She scrolled to Tom Hayes' number. She took a deep breath and hit call. He answered instantly. Tom, she said. Her voice was calm, flat. Let's do it. He exhaled, relieved. On the record? Yes, she said. All of it. My side. My emails. My evidence of the times I was warned not to speak out. My team's notes about the media deals. I'm done hiding. Lauren covered her mouth in shock. Tom didn't waste time. I'll have my team call you to set it up. Be ready. They'll try to stop you. I'm counting on it, she said. They hung up. Lauren exploded. Are you insane? They will crucify you. You're giving them everything to pick apart. Meghan's eyes were glassy but fierce. It's the only way to stop them. If I hold anything back, they'll twist it. If I put it all out there, they can't. Lauren paced the room. You don't get it. The palace will leak every dirty secret about you. The governments will discredit you. They'll call you unstable, a liar, unpatriotic. Meghan stood. They already do. Lauren pointed at her. You're putting yourself in real danger. You're a private citizen now. No security from the royals, no diplomatic immunity. You make yourself a target. Meghan clenched her jaw. I've been a target since the day I met Harry. Silence filled the room. Finally, Lauren sighed and sank into a chair. You really think the world will care about this for more than a week? Meghan didn't answer. She just looked out the window at the reporters camped on the lawn. Maybe they won't, she said quietly, but my son will. Someday he'll ask me what I did when they tried to silence me. And I want to tell him I didn't back down. Outside, the street was filling with more press fans. The police had arrived to control the crowd. Meghan turned away from the window. She picked up her phone. Get Tom back on the line, she said firmly. We have work to do. The day of the interview came fast. Too fast. Tom Hayes and his BBC team flew to LA overnight. They set up cameras in a neutral studio Meghan's team had booked quietly. Security was tight. Outside, reporters still camped on the street, but they didn't know where Meghan had gone. Inside the studio, it was quiet except for the low buzz of equipment warming up. Meghan sat in the makeup chair, staring at herself in the mirror. Her eyes were red from crying. She hadn't slept. Lauren hovered nearby, whispering furiously on the phone. Yes, I know it's insane. She's doing it anyway. Can't stop her. No, I can't make her apologize. That ship sailed. Meghan tuned her out. She thought of Harry. He was in Africa on a charity tour, frantic to get back but blocked by security chaos. He'd called all night, begging her to stop to let him handle it. She couldn't. Tom walked in, his expression grave but calm. He nodded to her. Ready? He asked softly. Meghan swallowed. Her voice cracked, as I'll ever be. They mic'd her up, adjusted the lights, did a last sound check. Then Tom sat across from her, notes in hand. He didn't look like Joy Behar. No smug grin, just tired eyes and a determination that matched hers. Rolling in 5, 4, 3. The red light went on. Tom didn't waste time. Why did you say what you said on The View? Megan took a deep breath. She felt her heart hammering in her chest. Because I was tired of lying, she said. Her voice was quiet but steady. Tired of pretending everything was fine while I was being threatened, manipulated, and silenced. Tom nodded. Who threatened you? Megan blinked slowly. Her lips trembled. People in power. Not just the palace, government officials, media executives, PR teams who told me to be grateful, to be quiet, to smile for the cameras while they buried the truth. Tom looked at his notes. What truth? Megan leaned forward. Tears welled in her eyes but didn't fall. That I wasn't safe. That I was targeted because of who I am. Because I wouldn't play the game. And when I tried to leave it behind, they followed me. They wanted to control the narrative even here. She handed him a folder. Tom opened it on camera. Pages of emails, memos, blacked out cables. This is your evidence? He asked. She nodded. It's everything I have. Emails where my team was told to drop stories. Notes from meetings where networks admitted they got calls from government liaisons. Threats of visa trouble for reporters who wouldn't comply. I'm done hiding it. Tom's voice was careful, professional. Do you understand what you're accusing them of? Megan's eyes hardened. Yes, state-level censorship. Collusion to protect an institution that has harmed people for generations. Using diplomacy to control a woman who wouldn't stay silent. There was silence. Tom let the moment hang. Then he asked, what do you say to people who think you're making this up? Who think this is all for attention? It's Megan's voice. Dropped, low, fierce. I don't care anymore. I didn't want this. I wanted peace for my family. But if telling the truth costs me everything, then fine. Let them take it. Tom shifted. He glanced at his producer off camera. Then he said carefully, you realize you're declaring war on two of the most powerful governments in the world. Megan exhaled. They declared war on me the moment they tried to silence me. Tom closed the folder and set it on the table between them. He looked into the camera. This is Meghan Markle. On the record. No spin, no palace press release, no White House statement. Just her words. Meghan's eyes stayed locked on the lens. Say what you want about me, she said quietly. But don't ever say I was silent. The red light went off. Silence filled the studio. Tom sat back. His hands trembled slightly. Jesus, he whispered. Lauren ran in from the side, her phone blowing up with calls. We have a problem, she said urgently. It's already leaked that you're doing this interview. The palace is preparing a response. The British government is threatening the BBC with legal action if they air it. Megan stood slowly. Her voice was ice. Let them try. Outside the studio, a storm was brewing. In London, the Prime Minister's aides scrambled to write statements condemning baseless smears. In Washington, the State Department weighed the fallout of a U.S. citizen accusing her own government of censorship on global TV. News agencies lined up for interviews. Newspapers demanded quotes. Social media caught fire. But Megan ignored it all. She left the studio quietly, security around her like a wall. Cameras followed. Reporters screamed her name. She didn't look back. She was done playing their game. Now it was her turn. Outside the studio, the morning light was harsh. Reporters were everywhere, crowding the sidewalks, standing on parked cars, shouting questions she couldn't hear over the roar in her own head. Megan pulled her coat tighter around her shoulders as security formed a wall around her. Her heart was hammering so hard she thought she might faint, but her face stayed calm. One photographer broke through the line, camera raised. Megan, are you afraid? She didn't answer. But inside, she felt something strange, less like fear and more like relief. Like a weight she'd carried for years had finally cracked. Off her chest, her driver opened the SUV door. She climbed in without looking back. The door slammed shut behind her, shutting out the shouting voices. Lauren was already inside, her phone pressed to her ear. She looked pale, furious. "They're threatening everything," she said the second Megan settled into the seat. "The palace just called the BBC board. They're threatening to sue for defamation. The State Department issued a statement calling your claims unsubstantiated and potentially damaging. They're trying to kill the interview before it airs." Megan stared straight ahead. "Let them." Lauren hung up. She looked at Megan helplessly. "What if this ruins you?" "'Cause..." Megan finally turned to face her. "Then I'm ruined on my own terms." The car pulled away from the curb. In the back window, dozens of cameras tracked them. Lauren pressed her palms to her eyes, exhaling shakily. "There's more." Megan braced herself. "Source inside the palace leaked your old emails. They're claiming you tried to cut private deals to protect your image, that you pressured tabloids yourself to kill negative stories. They're calling you a hypocrite." Megan closed her eyes. She felt the blood drain from her face. "They'll say anything," she whispered. Lauren nodded. "Yes, and people will believe it." Megan opened her eyes again. They were wet, but steady. "Then I'll show them the truth." Lauren looked like she wanted to argue, but she didn't. She slumped in her seat, exhausted. The rest of the ride was silent. By the time they reached Megan's safe house, the street was blocked by police barricades. Reporters were already setting up live feeds. Helicopters hovered overhead. She got out of the car slowly. Cameras flashed in a blinding wall. "Megan, do you have proof? Will you apologize to the Queen? You worried about prosecution? Did you lie to the American people?" She didn't respond. Security holding back the crowd. Security holding back the crowd. Inside, she closed the door and leaned against it, chest heaving. Her phone rang in her hand. "Harry, again." She answered. This time, Meg. His voice was rough, scared. "I'm on the next flight. Just hold on. We'll fix this." "It's nothing to fix," she said softly. "Don't say that," he pleaded. "They're going to bury you. You can't. Fight all of them." She sank onto the stairs, holding the phone against her cheek. "Maybe not, but at least I'm not pretending anymore." Silence on the line. She could hear him breathing. Finally, he whispered, "I love you." Tears spilled down her face. "I love you too." She ended the call before he could argue. More. She sat there a long time, shaking. Then her phone buzzed again. A text from Tom Hayes. "They're trying to block us. The interview will air tonight, no matter what." She exhaled shakily. A second text followed. "Prepare yourself. They're going to hit back hard. We're publishing every document you gave us." Her hands trembled. She typed back, "Let them. People deserve to know." She set the phone on the step and pressed her palms to her eyes. Outside, a helicopter circled lower, the noise like a warning bell. For the first time in a long time, she felt something close to peace. She had told the truth. Whatever came next, lawsuits, threats, ruin, she would face it on her feet. She wasn't the Duchess they expected anymore. She was the woman who refused to be silenced.